The views and opinions of this broadcast do not reflect the views and opinions of Armed Media, New Productions and its affiliates. Enjoy the show.
Teflon pan man. I'm the Teflon pan man. Ain't nothing gonna stick on me.
Hey everybody, welcome to the show. This is the podcast All You Can Eat, and it's all about deliciousness. I am your host, Rob Rosenthal. Super glad to be with you here live tonight, coming to you from New York City, New York, on the 4th day of September, 2019. It's currently 82 degrees and humid, but you know what? It's nice. It's nice it's that time of year, especially over here, I think, on the East Coast, that kind of early September, where everybody's back to school now this week and back to work. I find that kind of depressing. It's not that it's not reality. It's just that the summer's not really over. I mean, there are those of us, and maybe we're the exception, who recognize that summer actually doesn't happen until the end, September the 20th. I mean, right? Fall starts officially on the 20th or the 21st of September. And these next 2-3 weeks are kind of glorious weather-wise. They're warm. Oftentimes comfortable. You get beautiful days, especially that, if it's the weekend, you can kind of head to the beach or the shore. So the fact that people are rushing back to work and rushing back to school, I get it. Got to do what you got to do. But, for me, to be honest, I don't know if you guys feel this way. It's not a happy time to kind of prematurely give up the summer and move into the next season, because I think that I have come to recognize all these years later that I have what they call seasonal affective disorder, with the appropriate acronym SAD, S-A-D. But seasonal affective disorder it's a real thing, right? I mean, you can look it up here. Seasonal affective disorder overview. Seasonal affective disorder, SAD, is a type of depression that's related to changes in seasons. SAD begins. I like that. SAD begins. SAD begins and ends about the same time every year. And I'm telling you, it's kind of now, but wait, it's going to get way worse when I got to turn the clock back and make it dark an hour earlier. Then I'm really legitimately sad. If you're like most people with SAD, your symptoms start in the fall, and continue into the winter months, oh yeah, sapping your energy and making you feel moody. Less often, SAD causes depression in the spring or early summer. Well, no, I like the spring and the summer. My sadness is all about darkness and winter and cold. And here's how I deal with it, my friends. And I hope you do as well. I get out of town as much as possible. You go places, This year has been a big travel year for me. By the end of June, by halfway through the year, I had been to 9 countries. It doesn't always work that way, but this time it did. Went to a lot of places. But that's not what we're talking about tonight. Tonight, what we talk about is a couple of things so that you know what's coming up. One is, deliciousness. Because this is the podcast about deliciousness. I want to start off with deliciousness. Over these last couple of weeks, when I have stayed local, I've been on the coast here. I went out to what they call the Jersey Shore. So you're on the Atlantic Ocean, very lovely. Had some fine food over there. Weekend before, I was in Madison, Wisconsin. I've been there many times. I like the place a lot. Madison is a great town there in Wisconsin, college town. Super food, lovely beverages, all the beer and cheese you want to eat. And a farmer's market that takes place on Saturdays for the next couple of weeks. I mean, certainly it's summer and maybe the first, portion of fall. Easily one of the great farmers markets in the entire country. Right there at the Capitol. The Capitol, by the way, the Capitol building is stunning, glorious, beautiful. And the 4 blocks that surround it are filled with tables and tents that are occupied by farmers from America's Dairyland, my friend, Wisconsin. And my goodness, do they put out the product. And when you're late summer, early fall, man, I'm telling you, that is one glorious potpourri of food. You just, pick up your corn and grab your tomatoes, and those radishes look good, and let's get that garlic over there and sample a little bit of that grilled. What is that? What kind of cheese is that? Oh my God, that's good. The curds, even. I mean, tasty. And then there's the peas and string beans and the leeks and the onions and the apples are starting to come in. Wow, what an unbelievably fabulous and potent array of foods, and it's really, the best possible way to cook. By which I mean grabbing ingredients while they're at their total peak, bringing them home and cooking them then, with a minimum amount of fuss, right? You've been to the show before, you know that I have a user-friendly formula for my cooking. 6 words, my friends. Most taste, fewest ingredients, least effort. So you go to the farmer's market in a place like Madison, Wisconsin, you pick up some corn, you pick up some tomatoes, maybe somebody is selling some kind of feta or mozzarella. Get yourself some fresh basil. Wait, is that a red onion? I'll take the red onion. Wait, do you have serranos or jalapenos? Fine, give me that. You've got the makings of an amazing, spectacular summer salad. You don't even have to cook the corn. That's the thing. People don't realize that, man. I try to explain this about corn. When it's good and it's fresh and it's coming out of the ground, and you want to know whether or not it's good, you don't bother pulling the top off the thing and going, oh, it looks good. And that's meaningless. Honestly, you're just kidding yourself. Invest the 25 or 30 or 50 cents, if it's expensive, cents in an ear of corn, pull off the husk, pull out the silk, take a bite, and know exactly what it is that you're getting. Like, if it's sweet like candy, just go, I'll take a dozen, or however many. Because it turns out that even if you don't use them in the instant, even if you don't eat them raw, even if you decide that you do want to steam them, cook them, microwave, grill them, saute them, when you have a couple of corn left over after 2 to 3 days, you freeze them. They freeze well. So yeah, I've been to Madison, been to the Jersey Shore. So the point I wanted to make is that one of the things that I wanted to cover tonight in the last couple of weeks is what was memorable in terms of not only what I ate that somebody else made, but some of the things I myself made. Then I picked up a piece of news here from the New York Times. It's written by Jenny Rosenstrack, who I know, who's a beautiful writer and a cookbook author and big on feeding her family. So if we get time, we'll go to her article this week in the Times, How to Cook for Every Back-to-School Meal. So if you have kids, or even if you don't, I mean, it's what's nice about what Jenny puts out here is that it's not only if you have kids, it's like, how you put together breakfast, lunch, and dinner with the minimum amount of hassle, which I can relate to. Then, my friends, I will take you to a conversation that I had this past week with a guy by the name of Jeremy Schaller. If you're from this part of the world, you may be familiar with a company called Schaller and Weber, which goes back, I want to say 83 years here in New York City, making, German foods, sausages, those kind of things. Fantastic. Anyway, Jeremy's 3rd generation running that company. So I'm going to play a conversation that I had with Jeremy about sausages and all that they're doing over there, and hopefully inspire your taste buds. So you'll go to their site, Schaller and Weber, and maybe pick up some glorious sausages. Always my favorite thing in the world to put on the grill. It's the truth. The first time I ever smelled an Italian sausage on a grill next to a side of sizzling onions and peppers, it so infiltrated my taste memory, my nostrils at first, my stomach at second, and my taste memory third, that forever since that day, and I was 16 years old, if I see sausages on a menu at a restaurant, I am pretty much guaranteed to order them. And I wouldn't call it a fixation. I would call it a love affair with the sausage, because I like that. Anyway, I'll chat with Jeremy. So, so that's tonight. Let's get into those. And I also have, if time allows, the 2 or 3 recipes that I think are really good for this time of year, which means that you ought to get yourself to the whatever your local kind of market is, whatever your local source is for vegetables predominantly at this point. You're late season now, but get your corn, get your tomatoes, and get a lot, because there's a lot that you can do with it. In fact, that's a nice segue into, excuse me while I sip tequila. Tequila, in this case, a reposado, which means rested. So it stayed in the barrel a little bit longer than your silver, but not quite as long as your añejo. The Don Julio brand, but not the regular reposado. This one is the clear one. Fantastic. Because it's all you can eat, the podcast about deliciousness. Rob Rosenthal here with you Wednesday nights at 8 o'clock, always. Right, so we were talking about picking up tomatoes. So the best thing that I made was only a few days ago. And I tell people always, when it comes to DIY, making your own things, I don't see any reason ever to buy store-bought salad dressing. Make your own. Glad to tell you how. Simple. Essentially 3 ingredients plus some salt. Maybe Dijon, right? If you're going to do it right. Going to make like a vinaigrette, a classic vinaigrette. And I tell people always to make their own tomato sauce. Now, normally, which is to say 10 months or 11 months out of the year, your homemade tomato sauce, another, by the way, 3-ingredient dish. Again, I'm not counting salt, I'm not counting pepper. You may throw in, basil at the end. But what I'm saying is 10, 11 months out of the year, you're getting yourself a can of tomatoes, plum tomatoes, Italian plum tomatoes. People make a big deal about their coming from San Marzano, Italy. If you can do that, super. If not, there are certainly other good canned plum Italian tomatoes. And you squish them up with your hand, because that's fun, and you fry up a little garlic, and you throw the tomatoes in, and you let it sit with some salt. You can throw in red pepper flakes if you like. You can give it a twist of pepper. 20 minutes later, you're good. You got homemade tomato sauce, better than what you're going to get in any can or jar or a bottle in the supermarket. The point I want to make is that now in tomato season, sometimes you find you got so many tomatoes that you got more than you're going to end up needing to make a salad for. Which is hard to imagine, because right now what people are doing, people who are tomato people, are slicing the big old tomatoes, putting it on a piece of toast, smearing the toast first with some mayonnaise, putting salt on the tomato, and having tomato sandwiches with joy in their hearts, with love in their mouth. Me, would I toss on a crisp piece of bacon, a nice, sheet of iceberg lettuce? Sure. But, and then there's all your tomato salad, what's your classic Italian salad? The caprese, right? Big, it's a slice of perfectly potent, ripe tomato. So you're getting juice, you're getting acidity, you're getting sweetness. It plays on all those different aspects of your taste buds. A nice slice of mozzarella. Some is better than other. I'm not going to, I don't want to disparage, but, it's a, mozzarella can be a get what you pay for proposition. Some people make it fresh. Some people, you can get different, other than kind of like, I'm not talking about getting your shredded packaged store-bought craft brand. That's fine for, making yourself a piece of, homemade, melted something Parmesan. That's fine. But if you're going to have a caprese, get yourself nice tomatoes, get yourself the best mozzarella you can, because as I always tell people, get the best ingredients you can, don't mess them up too much. And all you have to do on top of that mozzarella and basil is drop a little bit of salt, drop some olive oil, in this case, extra virgin, first cold pressed, good olive oil, that is. And you finish with a leaf or two of fresh basil. That is a glorious little salad, the caprese. You could put it on toast, then you have a caprese sandwich. You could add a piece of prosciutto to that sandwich and feel very good about yourself on a grilled piece of ciabatta. I can have that right now. I'm not hungry. I'm not hungry. The program is called All You Can Eat, and I've been eating everything I can, in service to the program. I've had it all. Anyway, when you have the leftover tomatoes, you don't want to see those go to waste. You don't want to see them get all kind of rotted. You chop them up. I don't bother taking the skin off. You clean them. You chop them up into little pieces. 3, 4, 5 tomatoes, whatever you have. Little tomatoes, big tomatoes, whatever. You chop up some fresh garlic. Let's not call it chop in this case. Let's call it slice. Sliced garlic, fresh cloves of garlic that you've peeled, 3 or 4. You slice them thin. You take your olive oil. When it gets warm, you put the slices of garlic in it, and you fry the garlic. Now, this is important because you're flavoring the olive oil, which in turn will infuse everything else, meaning the tomatoes that are coming in soon. So when do you stop frying the garlic? Before they burn, and when they start to turn that color of kind of brown that looks like almost a toasted almond. Right? We like that. They smell good. They look good. Dump in the chopped up tomatoes. Hit it up with a handful of salt. Put the heat on medium and let it cook for 15, 20 minutes, stirring it around, pushing it down with perhaps a potato masher. And 20 minutes later, you have a glorious tomato sauce. Now, if that's all there was, that would be fine. But I was challenged with a bag of frozen shrimp from Costco, uncooked, raw, frozen shrimp. They handed me that, and they said, "What do we do with this?" So I chopped up the tomatoes. I put them in the garlic, and I let that cook for a while, simmer. Right? It's like you just look at it. It's just moving around nicely. It's liquefying. It's softening. You push it around a little bit so that it gets kind of a nice texture that you like. Some people would throw it in a blender and what's the term that I just lost? You could blend it till it's kind of it's not creamy, but you know what I mean. You blend it so it's kind of like a smoothie. It's kind of like anyway. I don't do that. I like the texture. What did I do with the shrimp? I just hit them up with salt. I hit them up with a lot of dry oregano. Put some olive oil in a saute pan, right? Because some people would be tempted. Here we go. This is a cooking thing. Some people would be tempted to take the shrimp and dump them right in the tomato sauce. And I'll tell you something, by the way. If you do that, that's fine. It's going to be okay. It's going to be good, right? Because tomato sauce is good. The shrimp are cooking in the tomato sauce. You might let them defrost a bit, so you don't put them in completely frozen, which will stop the cooking, which is okay too, by the way. I mean, let's not complicate it. Shrimp are pretty easy to cook. You can tell when they're ready because they look like beautiful. They just turn that fabulous color, and they're not translucent any longer on the inside. But I didn't toss them into the tomato sauce quite yet because I wanted to create what they would call another layer of flavor. Had I had breadcrumbs, they could have come into play. I did not. I used what I had. I had salt. I had dry oregano. I used enough of that dry oregano so that it looked like it almost kind of coated the shrimp. I should point out now, because I left out an ingredient, and it turned out to be just fantastic. But if you don't have it, and the odds are you don't, it's an easy substitute, right? In the tomato sauce, it turns out that I had a dozen of these kind of tiny, fiery red Asian, hot kind of peppers, little ones, like bird chilies, I think they call them, like Thailand maybe. I cut 3 or 4 of those up, and I sauteed it with the garlic before I made that tomato sauce, and so I had a spicy tomato sauce. Now, suppose you don't have these, right? Red pepper flakes serve the same purpose. And you just have to determine the level of intensity of heat, or spiciness, I should say, that you want. You want a lot, you're going to put, a whole bunch of those in. What's a whole bunch? I don't know. Teaspoon? Half teaspoon? You want a little bit of, you ever watch like Lydia Bastianich cook on television? When it comes to making tomato sauce, it may be a sprinkle of red pepper flakes, just enough to give it like a little bit of a zip. I sauteed the shrimp, the oregano shrimp. They would be oreganata if I had breadcrumbs. I didn't, but I sauteed the shrimp, salt, oregano combo. Maybe if you have a clove of garlic, maybe you have some onion, you throw it into that saute pan too, because the shrimp are going to go relatively quickly. What I'm really looking for is two things. I want to sear them on both sides. That's going to take, less than 4 minutes. And then the next thing I want to do is I'm going to dump them into the tomato sauce, into the simmering tomato sauce to finish cooking. But I am going to take advantage of whatever has happened in the bottom of that shrimp saute pan by taking a splash, literally a splash, 2 ounces, 4 ounces, 3 ounces, whatever you have. You have some white wine. I had some rosé sitting around, like that little bit in the bottle that wasn't quite enough to make a glass. And that gets dumped into the empty now, other than some flavor bombs, dumped into the saute pan and stirred around, because you're going to, that process, by the way, has a fancy name, deglazing, but all you're really doing is collecting all the flavor that is accrued in the bottom of the shrimp saute pan, and it's a lot. Between the shrimp and the oregano and the garlic and the olive oil, it's just a lovely flavoring. And once you throw a little shot of wine into that and stir it around, you don't even need to add butter, but you could, Monte Aubert. I'm not saying you should, I didn't. You could certainly add more flavor to it if you wanted to. You could throw a little butter in, stir it around. But anyway, that combination, even before the butter, that deglaze, that wine with what's left over in the saute pan, that goes into the shrimp tomato mix, and that gets stirred around. And then you cook a pound of linguine, and when the linguine is done al dente to the bite with texture, take the linguine and drop it into this shrimp marinara, basically. Shrimp marinara linguine. That was a beautiful thing. That's the best thing I think I made taste-wise, because those fresh tomatoes with that hit of the spicy Thai, chili pepper, and the shrimp and all the flavor that came from that is money over linguine. That's a beautiful thing. Just lovely. In terms of the best thing that I ate, I got to go with the bacon that I had this past weekend on the Jersey Shore. And I'm not one of these guys that's like, I know people that are, for them bacon is a religion. I'm not that guy. I like bacon. I'll have it regularly. To me, some people get, can only have it like, chewy, and some people have to have it crisp, and I know how I like mine. I'm predominantly crisp with a touch of chewiness. Anyway, I intentionally head to a restaurant on the Atlantic Ocean in a town called Seabright. The funny thing about Seabright is that it's a town, because it's on the Atlantic Ocean, that when you have one of these catastrophic storms, it's the town that they will often send the junior weather people to report on the storm while the waves are coming in over their head, and the wind is blowing their umbrella out of their hand, and it looks like they're going to die. That happens in Seabright. The other thing that happens in Seabright is a restaurant called Drift. Well, here's what you need to know about the restaurant. I'm going to find the name here because I can. The chef is a guy by the name of David Burke. And the thing to know about David Burke is the boy can cook. It's called Drift House. The chef is David Burke. Burke is a fairly well-known, certainly in these parts, a very successful chef, big guy. Sometimes you see him on television. Notable in my estimation for the full flavor of his food. This guy is not shorting you on anything. He's not into any trend. The that makes food smaller or lighter or cleaner or whatever. He's a flavor guy. He's big. So much so that I intentionally went to the Drift House in Seabright because I knew that he was the chef, and all I wanted to do was take my bride and sit at the corner of the bar right before the restaurant closed and order one thing and one thing only, which is David Burke's bacon. Now, we ordered a couple other things, by the way. It was dinner, and it was late, and it was fine. But I'm just saying, I was there predominantly for the bacon. And it is the most memorable food that I've had in the last couple of weeks, because what Mr. Burke does is he gets the biggest, fattest, juiciest bacon that money can buy. You spare no expense. It's just, like if you think of the best bacon that you've ever had, it has some characteristics. Something made it great. David's is just a giant slab of bacon that is meaty. It's not to say that there isn't plenty of fat, but it's meaty. It's like you eat the whole. You eat the whole thing. It's a meaty piece of bacon that has a sweetness to it. I don't know if it's from maple syrup. I don't know if it's from brown sugar. But it's got a hit of sweetness to it. And here's what here's what Chef Burke does. This is the funny part, right? It comes to your table, or in our case, to your bar, hanging. The bacon is hanging. It's not sitting on a plate. It's not on a napkin. It's not wrapped around. It's hanging on a clothesline, attached to the clothesline by those clothespins. Literally 4 pieces of big fat bacon hanging on clothespins on a clothesline. 4 wide, and the guy that serves the bacon has in his hand a blowtorch. It's just funny when you think of it. And he turns on the blowtorch and he begins to fire the bacon so that the bacon gets a little bit more crisp, a little bit more caramelized from the sugars that have been inputted on it. And just all in all, I mean, forget the theatrics, which are fabulous, but wow. I mean, that's good. That looks good. It smells good. The fire, the bacon, the sugar, the whole deal, man. It's just fabuloso. And that's not it, because it's hanging there. And it comes with a pair of scissors and a pickle. So follow me here. It's hanging on a clothesline. You cut off a chunk. In my case, it might be sitting next to a martini. Somebody else, it might be a margarita. Somebody else, a glass of wine. Whatever it is, it goes with... The thing about the bacon, frankly, is it goes with everything. It just... I mean, again... and the bacon is fabulous. It's just like meaty, chewy, sweet, salty. So it's got all that going for it. And then you throw the pickle on top of it, so you have that whole kind of sour element. So, he's firing on, like, all the taste buds are firing. Salt, sweet, sour. Is there any bitter in there? I'm not sure that there is. I'm not sure that you need. But it does call for a nice glass of bitters. Well, there you go. I hadn't really thought of that. Like Amaro. Anyway, so he does all that over there, and that was the best thing. So that was the best thing I made, was the kind of the shrimp marinara over linguine. Best thing I tasted was Mr. Burke's bacon. Now, speaking of bacon, you know that I'm coming to you from New York City, New York. Hello, welcome. Love having guests, and this is the time. But everybody's back to school and back to work. But I'm going to tell you this, my friends. This is the time you want to be in New York. I mean, fall is lovely, don't get me wrong. Christmas is going to be good. You like to look at windows and go shopping. But if you want to spend time outside in the city, this is the time. Lovely here. There is, on the Upper East Side of Manhattan, a neighborhood known as Yorkville. 80s, East, 1st, 2nd, York, over there, Upper East. And there is a store right around 86th and, was it 3rd or Lex? I'm going to say, it doesn't matter, really. 86th and, I'm going to say 3rd. Or it could be 2nd. 2nd. Yeah. Okay. Schaller and Weber is the name of the place. And the thing that's notable about Schaller Weber, first of all, is that it's been there longer than you have, longer than I have. I've been in the city a long time. Schaller Weber's been there longer, opened in 1937. Yorkville is known for being a community that was kind of the ground for where many German immigrants came into the city. So Schaller Weber was the place that you went because you wanted to have German meat and German sausages. And they've been doing this for a long time. And so they do it. And that's the thing, by the way, I want to say this. I tell people that, that I'm kind of like, I like the classics. I mean, if you do the 1937, let me do the math, 63, 1983. This place is around 83 years. They're doing something right. So when I had the opportunity to chat with Jeremy Schaller, third generation of that family running this operation, I said, yeah, I want to speak to Jeremy. So you have a butcher shop up there in Yorkville. They're making sausages, charcuterie at the highest possible level. This is great stuff. They're doing it for a long, long time. And Jeremy is the founder's grandson. So, in spite of the usual kind of panic and fear that I have, as we move into any type of technical endeavor here on the podcast, I'm going to push a button and play for you, my friends, my conversation with Jeremy Schaller, third generation runner of the fabulous Schaller & Weber on New York's Upper East Side, where, if you tune in, if you stay with us, you are going to be able to order anywhere you live, I think, in these United States. You're going to be able to order some sausages, some delicious sausages, 3 or 4 of which I've tasted, from the operation. Here, check it out. Okay, hello, and hey, everybody. Here is Jeremy Schaller. Hey, Jeremy, how you doing?
Hey, Robert. I'm doing well.
I am so glad to have you on.
Thank you.
And, I was telling people about a little bit about Schaller & Weber, but nobody can do a better job of explaining the operation than you. Let's start at the kind of beginning. Tell people what Schaller & Weber is.
Schaller & Weber is an 83-year-old company. It was started by my grandfather, Ferdinand Schaller, and his partner, Tony Weber, at the time in 1937. We started with a shop on the Upper East Side on 86th and 2nd. My grandfather was a German immigrant and came here from Stuttgart. And he was a butcher by trade, and he was an entrepreneur. And he came over here by boat. He landed here in 28, and then started to find a partner, started to work with other butcher shops, and eventually he started his own company and pursued it with the American dream. He came here with $10 in his pocket, and he developed a company that still exists in New York today.
I'm a long time. I'm a born and raised New Yorker, and I am a fan of kind of the classics. So to me, I've always loved Schaller & Weber because it's classic New York, and the product ultimately at the end of the day, the product is extraordinary. Otherwise, how are you sustaining for all this time? Tell people about kind of what people come in to buy. What are some of the kind of major products that people are most excited about?
Sure. We started as a traditional German-style butcher shop, so we have all of your classics like the cooked bratwurst, the knockwurst, we do a goose pate, a golden nettle pate, which is our best-selling pate, we do leberkäse, all the traditional German-style deli meats. Mm-hmm. And being that we were in New York for 83 years, we've evolved into a New York deli program as well, so we're making pastrami and black forest ham and brown sugar liverwurst, everything that you would see in a typical deli set today.
Love it. And Jeremy, so did you grow up also here, kind of in and around the store?
I did. I started coming into the store as a baby, as a child. I have photography of me being in the store in the 1970s, and I was born in 78. So I was raised around it and always took part in it. We used to have a factory out in Queens as well, which we sold because we moved our production to Pennsylvania at that time. Mm-hmm. But I grew up also working in the factory. working on the sausage line, on the packing line when I was a kid. So I've always been involved at some extent.
Well, and it's always impressive when you, I think, when you see generation after generation. I mean, it doesn't feel to me that's as common as it used to be, but I was excited to see that I would be talking to you, coming in from the third generation. And I guess, part of the thing that happens by the time it gets to you, I can't help but notice that, one of your kind of, one of your thrusts at this point is to kind of expand. So this whole conversation started when I tasted some of the new products that you were doing over there, which are all connected in some way to the kind of restaurant scene on the Lower East Side here in Manhattan. You want to talk a little bit about those products?
Yeah, I'd love to. So we are expanding to the Lower East Side to the new Essex Crossing development that's going down on Essex and Delancey, which is set to open in October. They've already opened partially, but the level that we're going to be on will open in mid-October. And what we want to do in celebration of that, and our first expansion in about 30 years, is to celebrate it with collaborations with some of my favorite restaurants down there.
Mm-hmm.
So we have the chefs from those restaurants design sausages in collaboration with my team to produce sausages that we can sell wholesale, that are available on our website. And the three restaurants that we chose were the Flower Shop, Egg Shop, and Cafe Select. So Cafe Select is doing a St. Galler style bratwurst, which is from Switzerland. It's a Swiss restaurant, and this particular sausage is from the town of St. Gallen, where they do a very famed, unique style bratwurst that's different than anywhere else. And so we replicated that product with them. And the Egg Shop, being that they're on the Lower East Side and they do a phenomenal breakfast clientele, so they designed a maple bratwurst that is more like a breakfast style sausage with us. And then the Flower Shop is an Australian restaurant down on Aldridge Street, and they did an Aussie style snack. They're all great and very unique products. I have to have them on board.
And I can attest to that as well, because you obviously have a bias. I do not, but I will say this: that I had all three of them, and that first one, the one what is it, Cafe Select, the white one. I tell you, the thing is that even though I would gravitate normally to something that was a little bit more on the spicy side, I have to say that I loved it. I really liked it. You used the word delicate in the description. It's meaty. It's what is it? This is the one that's made with, I'm going to say, pork and veal, and a hit of lemon zest, and made really just delightful sausage. Easy one to eat. Enjoyed that. Then I tried the one that you do in collaboration with the Egg Shop, because I did that one for breakfast, and I want to tell you something. As soon as I took a bite out of it, my first impulse was, where's the maple syrup? Not for me, not for you. My first impulse was, where's the maple syrup? So anytime I taste I'm not a big breakfast, that's right. Hang on, let me make that noise stop. Okay, there we go. Sometimes that happens. I have not done, out of 63 podcasts, one where there hasn't been some technical glitch. That was the one for today. A robocall coming in. So anyway, I had this breakfast sausage, and I taste immediately that little hit of sage, and I couldn't help it. I was eating eggs, but I mean, had there been pancakes, I was just envisioning the maple syrup together. That's what it brought to mind. Really enjoyed that. And of course, my favorite, because I do like a little, I like the big taste. My favorite was that one that you mentioned with the Australian kind of flavor, with the confit garlic and the smoked paprika. Really, really just love the sausage. So, well, I mean, I'm not surprised you're doing great stuff, but I really enjoyed all three. So thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you. And that was a collaboration, with our production guy, a gentleman named Harold Nagel, who comes from Hamburg.
Right.
And he helped the chefs actually design it into a format where it's more, we're the sausage specialists and they're the flavor specialists.
Uh-huh.
So the way that we teamed up and got those recipes nailed down together was fantastic, and we're very proud of this.
Yeah, really nice work. I guess before I ask you anything else, let's make it easy for people. Are these products all available outside of of New York? I mean, is it as easy going to the what's the go to the website, that kind of thing?
Yeah.
Okay, let's tell people the what is it, Schaller and was it SchallerandWeather.com? Is it that easy?
So we've simplified it more. It's just SchallerWeather.com.
Oh, that's even easier. So it's SchallerWeather.com, and let me just make sure that we get people to spell it right. It's going to be SCHALLER. Weber's WEBER.com. So people can check out the website and then figure out which not only these, but among everything else that you all the other sausages that you sell as well.
Thank you. Yeah, and they're featured right now in the header of the website. So. They'll be right there to pop up when we open it up.
Now, if I wasn't having one of those three, Jeremy, what are the other ones that I would normally, what are the kind of popular ones that you like there from the shop?
So this time of year, we're about to jump into Oktoberfest.
Wow.
So this is the time for the bratwurst, the traditional bratwurst, the knockwurst, and the weisswurst that we sell.
Right.
We're still using my grandfather's original recipes that he brought here for those. And I go to Germany every year, and they match up to the best sausages I've ever had there.
Awesome.
Great and authentic as you can make them.
That's awesome. I like to hear that. And I think sausage is one of those things, I got to be honest, like I don't, everybody, I feel like everybody loves, I mean, unless you're a vegetarian, but I feel like everybody loves, sausages. I know that I do. But that's quite exciting. Okay, good. I like that. I like what we've done here. You went into the business. Schaller and Weber continues to put out excellence. Obviously, you have the retail operation on the Upper East Side in Manhattan, the collaboration on the Lower East Side with the restaurants, and easy availability for anybody that wants to pick up these your products online at SchallerWeather.com. And I'm just telling people because I do this for a living. I recommend things. I recommend not only the three I had, but anything you guys put out. And I've always been impressed with the product over there.
That's so great to hear. Just one other thing involving that. We're opening up in the decal market in Brooklyn on October 1st as well with our sausage concept, the Schaller Stube, which is our spin-off concept, which is all our Schaller and Weber sausages with different unique toppings involved in the recipes.
Okay, this is important. I knew that was coming, and it was my other question to you. Is this the first time, or are there going to be more than one? What's the plan here?
Well, we actually have one in Austin, Texas as well.
Right.
Which is more of a food truck concept, but it's the same Schaller Stube menu that you get here in New York.
All right, so let's talk about the one at DeKalb. Tell people kind of where it is, and if we go, and when it's open, of course, and if we go, what are kind of some of the kind of flavor combo things that we're looking at eating?
So we do all of the best number one seller is our classic, which is our traditional bratwurst in a pretzel bun.
Nice.
With sauerkraut and our Düsseldorf style mustard.
Beautiful.
We do some fantastic ones like the Sidearm Special, which is a banh mi inspired recipe. So that just shows the diversity of the flavors that we have. We do one. We're doing one for DeKalb, especially. That's called the Den Bums Bologna. Oh, Den Bums Bologna. That's right. So it's a play on the Brooklyn Dodgers. Since we're up in Brooklyn, and it's a bologna style sausage recipe that we're going to be launching there.
Dick, is the place open, or did you say that it was opening soon? I missed that.
October 1st.
October 1st, just in time for Oktoberfest. Will there be some beer in the neighborhood as well?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, I love that. I will actually look forward to sampling because you can put any kind of sausage for me on a pretzel bun with some of that nice Dusseldorf mustard, and I will be happy, my friend.
That's right. Me too. I feel the same way.
I will be happy. Jeremy Schaller, everybody, thank you for spending the time. Looking forward to eating some more sausages. I have one or two more in the fridge. I'm going to be popping in pretty soon on top of the range, and appreciate you taking the time, and continued good luck expanding the family business. Love what you're doing.
Thank you, Albert. If you're in the neighborhood anytime, just let me know, and we'll have sausage together, okay?
Well, okay. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I'm not far. I can hop on across down the bus and see you soon. All right.
Okay, hello.
Right. That's what I'm talking about. Jeremy Schaller. Right there, Schaller and Weber, third generation. I'm always impressed, third generation. Somebody's been doing some good work there for a long time. 1937. When you go to the site, it's, like you said, schallerweber.com, SCHALLER, Weber, WEBER. I can tell you that I had some lovely sausages, but I mean, you can see they also will, salamis, right? Pâtés. Cold cuts, deli meats, specialties like, probably, pork chops. There's bacon, of course. I mean, not just any old bacon. I mean, like big, giant slabs of bacon. They do charcuterie. You can get your condiments there, your mustards, your gifts. So this is, you're not going to be disappointed here. It's coming from your boy, Rob, the recommender. Schaller and Weber is an easy recommendation for me. Schallerweber.com. Right, so we have a choice in our remaining time here. How to cook for every back-to-school meal? 30 recipes to make in September. I don't know. I could go either way. Well, all right. How to cook for every back-to-school meal. Let Jenny Rosenthal suggestions take the pressure off, whether you're making breakfast, lunch, dinner, or snacks before or after practice, or that surprise fourth meal. I don't think we have to go into detail, but what we like about Jenny, who's big on the family dinner, as am I, and who has recently eschewed much of the kind of red meat that she and her family consume. But she knows taste, she knows how to cook, she knows what she's doing, and here she's writing about a number of recipes by meal occasion that are easy to make if you happen to be one of those people that's making food for your kids, and you want it to be good, you want it to be healthy, but you don't want it to be a pain in the butt to make. So let me take you through some of Jenny's ideas. You have your smoothie bowls. Now, I'm good on a smoothie every once in a while for the kids, especially when it's loaded with kind of like, good seasonal fruits, and then you throw in some kind of liquid, which can be, like an almond milk, this kind of thing, or maybe it's some juice, etc., etc. And, maybe on the side they get some nice... I used to give my kids on those days that I would go smoothie, it would be like, hey, here, have a piece of multigrain toast, maybe it's a piece of turkey bacon, or literally a piece of turkey. I don't mind that. Anyway, she's big on the smoothie bowls. Frozen fruit is the key. Oh, she's using frozen. That makes sense, right? Because it's going to give you a texture that's going to be, like soft serve ice cream. I like that. Frozen fruit is the key. Try blending a cup together, she says, of frozen strawberries, a half a cup of mangoes, room temperature banana, and a half cup of almond milk. There you go. And then I tell you, your school kids are going to be happy with that. Superhero muffins. I'm not a muffin maker. I'm not a muffin eater, so I'm gonna skip over that one. She makes a thing called overnight Bircher muesli. If you've ever had that, it's some bad looking cereal. It looks like muesli. It probably translates into like mortar. I mean, the stuff just is always horrible to look at because it's colorless. And it looks like mush, like pre-digested food. That said, it's tasty, right? Because it's cereal. What does she say? Vacation, can't figure out our own doctoring store-bought muesli. So she's going to buy some store-bought muesli, Bob's Red Mill being the brand. Add about a half a cup of that together with some milk. And you're doing this at night, interestingly enough. Stir in a tablespoon of Greek yogurt, a squeeze of honey, and then in the morning, it's ready. And she said if you're feeling ambitious, you can add some shredded apple, but more often than not, you can just hand the muesli to your kid with a spoon. I'll tell you what I do. I like the oatmeal. I mean, I like it a lot. But I will confess that I'm willing to put in the time to make the steel-cut oats, which take, half an hour to make. So the way, however, that you can expedite that cooking is doing the same concept that she says. You take your oatmeal, and your water, frankly, 4-to-1, I believe, is the thing with the McCann's Irish. And you put that together at night, just leave it on the stove, off. But by the time it kind of, soaks early in the morning, you don't have to spend quite as much time cooking. Maybe it's 10 minutes or so instead of the 30. What I love about the oatmeal lately, and this is really lately for me, and it's not a summer thing, but it's certainly going to be a great kind of fall-winter thing, is I came upon the notion of savory oatmeal rather than, the sweet oatmeal, right? Because I like oatmeal. And not the instant, because again, that's also gruely. That's also kind of, and it doesn't have a lot of nutritional value. So if you can put in whatever time it takes to throw on, the steel cut oats in the morning. Normally those get eaten, with your combination of, a little sugar or brown sugar or maple syrup or cinnamon, right? Cinnamon, nutmeg, something to sweeten it, and that's fine. A handful of raisins or craisins or a handful of almonds. This is good eating. It's healthy. It's long lasting. It's everything good. But then I came upon savory oatmeal, and it's like, wait a second. What do you mean savory oatmeal? Yeah, forget all that sweet stuff. Forget all the honey. Forget all the syrup. Forget all the cinnamon. Forget the raisins, right? What if the oatmeal was converted in? What if the oatmeal was a canvas that you could convert into something savory? How? You say? How do I do that, Rob? Well, it's easy. I throw in a little bit of olive oil. I throw in a good hit of salt, sometimes seasoned salt, sometimes rosemary salt. I might even throw in a little bit of dried, like mustard powder. You could throw in a spice if there's one in particular that you like. I sometimes look in my refrigerator and I can either put in a handful of cheese into these oats, or if I have some leftover, Parmesan Reggiano cheese rind, I can cook it in there. And so at the end of the process, you taste the oatmeal and it's like, oh, wait a second, this is more like risotto than it is like breakfast cereal, right? Because it has that texture. And if you could make rice savory, right, and you could make wheat savory, why not make oat savory? And so I do, but here's the kicker. Here, my friends, is my favorite new breakfast. Last year it was shakshuka, where I took all of those leftover tomatoes, put them into a stew, and dropped a couple of eggs and spices in there, and hello, beautiful. Now it's your savory oatmeal, made savory with some combination of spices that you like, salt, etc., etc. And I top a fried egg. I put a fried egg on top, like an oozy fried egg, so that it oozes out over the oatmeal. Hello. Had I known about this a long time ago, it'd be another 5 pounds heavier. Not that there's anything wrong with an egg and oatmeal. It's just whatever. What does she do for lunch and snacks? She does bruschetta. By the way, it's pronounced bruschetta, just FYI. If somebody says bruschetta, to be honest with you, it's fine. It's just a mistake. Because that CH in Italian is bruschetta. What does she do? She chops up mozzarella and little tomatoes and puts them into a sealed, resealable container with some baguette slices. And then you have bruschetta. Always better if you can throw a little basil into the mix. Salt, important. Pancake sandwiches, never heard of this. Hopefully you saved a few pancakes from breakfast. Or you froze the leftovers from your Sunday brunch. They're a little more exciting to use than bread in an almond butter and banana sandwich. I like that. Almond butter and banana sandwich on a pancake. Okay. Jenny makes for her people BLT lettuce wraps. The cooked bacon freezes remarkably well, and these wraps take moments to assemble. When you have it on hand for each wrap, roll one bib lettuce leaf with a slice of bacon and a few chopped up grape tomatoes. Because she's not eating a lot of meat, there's 1,000 things here with beans and black beans and blah 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 blah. A lot of beans. Not interested in beans. Not. Avocado toast shows up. Everyone has a favorite version. They do theirs on sourdough with a thin layer of cream cheese, fork smashed avocado, a drizzle of olive oil, and a sprinkling of everything bagel seasoning. Smart idea. Everything bagel seasoning, which you can buy these days both at the Costco and at your Trader Joe's. Green pea hummus and pita. You can upgrade, she says, any supermarket hummus by folding in a few dollops of plain yogurt. Whirl in a handful of thawed frozen peas and squeeze of lemon to get a vegetable in there, and you can justify calling it a balanced meal. Tomato sandwiches, which we had spoken about earlier. It's like toast and a great tomato and mayo and happiness. Salad, Caesar dressing, because her people love Caesar dressing. She could serve it on anything. Buddha bowls, which is basically anything on rice, whether that means broccoli steamed, spinach with peanut sauce, blah-blah-hoo. Crispy peanuts and naan. Naan, incidentally, again, is one of those things that you can pick up by the 12, like dozen over at the Costco. Lovely little mini naans, lovely toast. I mean, super bread. And she's big on crispy chickpeas, as am I. I made a version 2 days ago, last night. No oil. Canned 15-ounce, 16-ounce canned chickpeas, drain, on my toaster oven tray. Hit them up with the chili lime seasoning from the Trader Joe's. Hit them up with salt. Dropped a little chipotle on them. Put them into the toaster oven for 15 minutes at right around 400 degrees. Wow! Best I've ever had. How easy. How healthy. Better to put on the table as a snack than a loaf of bread. Loaded sweet potatoes, I agree. Anytime you can make sweet potatoes, make them and throw anything you want on them, or don't. Thank you, Jenny, for that. In the little time we have left, let us review. We've been to Schaller and Weber. We can get sausages. We've heard different things that you can make here for yourself or for your family. We've eaten well. We've had tomatoes. We've had like a shrimp marinara over zucchini. We've had toasty bacon fired at you at the table. Yeah, I'm going to be back next week. There's going to be more going on. There's going to be more to eat. There's going to be more to drink. Because this is, my friends, All You Can Eat, the podcast about deliciousness. I'm your host, Rob Rosenthal, with you every Wednesday night. I'll have you know, incidentally, that if you ever want to listen to any of the past 62 podcasts, this is episode number 63, obviously, you can go to iHeartRadio, go into podcasts, and search for All You Can Eat or Rob Rosenthal. And now, these days, you can also do the very same thing on your Spotify, right? So go to Spotify and look in podcasts and do a search for Rob Rosenthal, All You Can Eat. And I will remind you, my people, that life is short, so never waste a meal. See you next week.
I'm the Teflon Pan Man.